Well, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all the live viewers on with us today. And hello, replay viewers. And hello, Gemma.
Hey,
How are you tonight?
um, not too bad. Better than you, I guess. Got work, but anyway.
Yeah. So, just in case, there's not a whole lot of folks probably in here just yet, but for the replay viewers at least, if you see me get up and leave in the middle of the broadcast, Gemma's got it under control. I got
Yeah,
called into work tonight, um, helping out.
time.
We had my department had a line of duty death. So, um, yeah, so I am at the station right now, filling in. Um, Anywho, before that does happen, let's get into tonight. Tonight we're having a special guest on with us. Jim in Chicagoland is here. Um, and you and Jim share something in common, yes?
Yeah, we do. Yeah. Um,
So,
my son is still going through it, but Jim has been a huge support to me and Thomas because my son was diagnosed with leukemia in 2019, and Jim's daughter has also fought that. And like, that's how we really started talking. I mean, I knew of Jim before that. You probably didn't have a clue who I was. But anyway, um, yeah, like when he was diagnosed, Jim reached out to me and was a huge support for getting through a lot of what I have so far. But Thomas is still going through it. He's still got till next year, hopefully just till next year, to get through the treatment and everything. So yeah.
right. So yeah, that's what we are going to be discussing tonight is
Mhm.
diagnoses in your children and what that is and what it's like. And so, without any further ado, let's bring in our guest for this evening.
Yeah.
Here's Jim.
Well, good
Hey.
Hello,
morning,
Jim.
good evening, good afternoon. Hello, everybody. Hello, Tim. Hello, Gemma. Thank you for having me.
Hey.
Hello.
Well,
How are
thank
you
you.
tonight?
I'm Tracy. Hi, Bo. Hi, everybody in the virtual studio audience. Thanks for having me.
Yes, sir. Thanks for joining us. It's an honor to have you on. Um, you know, a lot of us, or a lot of my viewers at least, are also in your broadcasts. So we've
Mhm.
all been on Saturday Night Trivia and seen Ashley having a great time, and
Yeah.
just her laughter is infectious, and um, just an amazing young lady. Would you like to? We'll just jump right in. Would you like to tell us the story of Ashley's travel here?
Oh, my goodness. Absolutely. Well, first of all, Tim, Gemma, everybody here, thank you so much for joining us this evening here. Make sure you guys are supporting and subscribing to Tim and Gemma, everybody. They are bringing a unique and compelling subject to this platform every week here, guys. It's on mental health. Lucia also does a great job of mental health, and there's some others on this platform that are doing that too. So make sure that you support those people, bring them to the forefront and create awareness and everything here for everybody in this room, because everybody in this room, whether you're here with us or if you're in our virtual studio audience, you have a story and people need to hear about it. And it can't just be inside, it can't be contained. You're safe with us. And when you get it out, you're going to feel much better. And it's a long path for many of us, but you'll be able to overcome. And we are here to listen, to learn, and to support you guys. So just
Absolutely.
yeah. So just course about my daughter. She was born back in God 2006. She's now 15 years of age. Ashley was diagnosed with ALL leukemia back in December of 2008. So the bone marrow test wasn't bad, so we didn't have to do the whole AML, which is the lesser of the two leukemias. But still, she had very critical low white blood cell count. She had low platelet levels. She was in the hospital for about 3 weeks, and within 24 to 48 hours, she had a port put into her chest where the immediate process of chemotherapy took place for my daughter at the age of 2.5. Um, Not only there was like a little tube that came out of her with a little port, and doctors pretty much injected chemo into her manually, and then I was asked to do it as a father, as a parent, administering chemo at home twice a day to my daughter to fight off the blast cells with the cancer cells in her blood. That took place, she was under chemo for 3 years. She went into remission in 2011, which is the good news. The bad news is that with chemo, especially lower back spinal treatments, there are heavier doses because blast cells or cancer cells tend to hide in the spinal areas in the back, up to the back of the neck and everything. So they have to do spinal injections every once in a while. And there was a pretty strong dose of chemo that was administered via her lower back one day, and she was like 3. And unfortunately, that chemo traveled to the back of her brain. She seized in September of 2009. Her face got blue, her eyes rolled back in her head. She was non-responsive. Fortunately, and this is why it's nice to have Tim in the room, there happened to be a fire station 5 minutes away from where my daughter had her seizure, her first of many seizures for 8-9 years. The EMTs, the firefighters were there within 5 minutes, stabilized my daughter, and then by the time the paramedics showed up with the truck, they got her to the hospital, which was 10 minutes away. They got the oxygen going into her. They got all of the necessary things to keep her up and running. And she was there for another 3 weeks in addition to getting chemo. Sadly, those seizures remained in her, not just during chemo, but even when she went into remission. There were head drops, there was non-responsiveness, there were eyes rolling in the back of her head, full body collapses, other breakthrough seizures that we had no clue how to stop them. And for
this
9 years, we could wallpaper this whole house probably with all the meds we brought her up and down on, and nothing solved it. And the side effects were horrific. Side effects, aggressiveness, and this is in addition to like what Gemma's going through with her son Thomas. She knows the aggressiveness from like the steroids, the aggressive behavior, the sleep deprivation, obesity, a lot of other side effects, and then couple in the anti-seizure meds on top of it for my daughter. It was double trouble, and it was like that for 8-9 years. And it took until medical cannabis, which we'll explain a little bit later on in the program, a patch on her foot, which is CBD with a very little bit of THC, and then a tincture with like a little drop of CBD with THC on it. It's like an oil it puts on top of a little chocolate chip. We put into her once a night, and she's been seizure free now for 3.5 years, thanks to medical cannabis.
Wow.
But to make a long story short, she was in a wheelchair in 2017. She could barely walk. She could say one word at a time. She could barely walk. She didn't remember what happened like half hour ago, let alone 10 minutes ago. After the CBD, she started remembering Disney World when she was the age of 4. She started talking full sentences. She was walking independently. We got her daughter back, and granted, she still has some special needs, and she's going to probably be dependent with somebody the rest of her life. But we got her daughter back, and she is strong. And I'm going to hijack my director skills here really quick, and then I'm going to let
Oh,
you guys
sure, absolutely.
switch back over.
That's why I gave it to you.
Thank you. And then I'll let you guys switch back. Look at that. There she is this morning, ladies and gentlemen, a sophomore in high school, getting ready to go on the bus at 6:50 in the morning. And thank you for all of you guys stopping in the room. So there's Ashley. And let me go back to you guys here. Let's see. Let's go back to Tim here. Let's go back to
She looks very excited.
Yeah. So I'm gonna let's put. I'll let you guys do whatever. So that's the story, Tim.
Yeah, so I mean that's amazing. First of all, the turnaround that she was able to experience with just the medical cannabis. It was like the missing key to the lock, if you will, I guess. Gemma, if you want to share a little bit where you are with Thomas.
Yeah, so it literally today, actually, we were at the hospital and he was put under anaesthetic for his lumbar puncture, and they inject the chemotherapy into his spine because there was some on his brain as well. And that methotrexate, but that has got some horrific side effects to it.
Yes.
And he's on another one, vincristine, which they've had to lower to 50% because that also saw him in a wheelchair. Now he has T-cell leukemia, and right at the start, his blood count was, his white blood count was so high that it couldn't stay just in like the veins and stuff. So it started collecting and formed a huge mass on his chest. I've actually uploaded some scans for you to look at. See if we can. There we go. I don't know how to do this. So
I got you.
Hit the, actually, I might be able to do it for you, Gemma. Hold on.
I
yeah,
got you.
I don't know how to make it big.
I'll go full screen. There you go.
Yeah. So the one on the left
My
was
goodness.
taken the day that he was diagnosed, and that huge shaded area in the middle was the mass that was crushing his heart and his lungs.
Oof.
I didn't know it was affecting his heart until recently. Actually, they didn't tell me that.
Oh my
I'd
God.
been taking him to the hospital, the doctors, for about 4 months prior to diagnosis, saying that he wasn't sleeping properly. He was very wheezy. He was complaining about pain, and he was bruising a lot. But my doctors were not supportive enough, and I actually got blamed for causing the bruising. And they very closely came to diagnosing me with Munchausen's by proxy because of this. Thankfully, they found out what it was, but there's no way I'd have wanted it to be this.
I got
But
you.
yeah, he's still on treatment, as I say, and he is currently. They estimate that he should now be finished in May next year. So we finally got an end date for this nightmare of what did I say it was? I think I said 16th of May next year is the end date, supposedly.
Wow.
Although he's had to have an increased dose of chemotherapy recently for
Hmm.
quite a little while now, actually, because during the start of COVID, there was that many concerns for people with compromised immune systems that they reduced his chemo to about 20-30% dose, which caused his white counts to go back up.
Oh.
And then they're now having a really hard time getting back onto it. So he had to have a 4-week break about just over a month ago because he became neutropenic, which means there's no neutrophils, and those are what is your natural defense to fight infection and things like that.
Right.
And he had none of those, so he had to have a 4-week break of absolutely no steroids and chemo so that he could allow his bloods to recover. But again, the white blood cells started climbing. So I think he's on 110% dose now, with the view of going to 120 in 2 weeks if his bloods are good enough.
Hmm.
But I don't know about you, Jim, but it was like when you're told your child has this condition, it's like having a medical degree imposed on you overnight.
Yes.
You get given
It's
all
a
this
crash
information
course.
and you're like, what do I do? And at
It,
first I
Yes.
wasn't taking it in, but then I'm like, right, I need to know what all this is, and having to know what all the blood counts meant and neutrophils and everything, absolutely everything, every drug
So
and
that's perfect
oh,
place to. That was actually going to be my very first question, and we can go ahead and start with Jim. Um,
mhm.
what is step one when you hear this information that your daughter is diagnosed with leukemia?
yeah, it was. We thought we thought our daughter broke her arm. We were at a party with a bunch of our friends a couple of weeks before, or a week before that, and downstairs, all the kids between 1 and 15 were all downstairs in this basement roughhousing and everything, and having fun. And all the adults were all having wine and beer and snacks upstairs and everything like that. Would each of us would go downstairs and check on them, and everything seemed to be fine. So one morning we were taking our daughter over to my sister-in-law's house in the morning before we were heading to the office, and we tried to put Ashley's winter coat on, and she let out a scream like you would never believe. It was on a Friday. I remember this, like on December 5th, and in 2008, and she let a loud scream. She couldn't even put her arm. She couldn't even bend her arm like this because she was in so much pain and discomfort. And we thought she had a fractured elbow.
Mm.
So we took her, to get to like immediate care and get an X-ray, and there was no fracture or anything to speak of. So we went to get a second opinion. She was still in pain. We went to a second place, and they were in triage because so many people had the flu in December. that year. They came back and they concluded that she had a fractured elbow and to go to a pediatrician the next day to they put a soft cast on it, and they said, we'll get a hard cast the next morning. And we don't remember her ever getting hurt. And the thing that I remember my wife said, I bet you Gemma did the same thing when Thomas got diagnosed. The first thing that we ask for are blood counts. Wherever, any kind of childhood injury, when you go to immediate care, we go wherever, emergency room, whatever, the first thing is we want blood counts. The healthcare provider that we went to that concluded that she had a fractured elbow, we insisted and we demanded blood counts. They denied us the right for blood counts. They said they weren't able to do it. So we refused to get the cast put on her. So that weekend was one of the longest weekends of our lives, or at least at the time we thought it was. A friend of ours, my wife's old softball teammate, who was a lawyer, had a friend who was a doctor at another healthcare provider. So we went out of network to get counts at 2 p.m. on December 8th of 2008 at 2 o'clock. So we got the counts. We were like, okay, we all got that done. We're going to be all set. Everything's going to be good. So we were like, okay, we're going to go Christmas shopping. We're going to go over to Deer Park and go Christmas shopping. And then calling my wife back in her car. And then all of a sudden, my wife gets a call. Your daughter's platelet and white counts are critically low. Get her to the emergency room immediately.
Wow.
So my wife is like trembling, shaking, scared. Something is seriously wrong. So we did an about face, went back to the emergency room at the hospital, went to Bay 7 in the emergency room, met Dr. Kwan and Dr. Goodell from the Advocate Healthcare Network over at Park Ridge, outstanding oncologists. And within an hour and a half, they found blast cells, and they told us in the room at 7:45 p.m. on December 8th that your daughter has leukemia. And we were just both in shock. And it was, I think this is what you guys talked about a couple weeks ago, Tim, on your program. It was the shock, anger, grief, denial, that whole within
the 5 stages of grief. Yep.
5 stages of grief within minutes. Minutes. It was such a blur. We stayed there in that hospital for at least 2 weeks. And everything changed forever. Our lives have never been the same. Even to this day, things haven't been the same.
Sure.
It's I think everybody in this room, not just Jim and myself and you, Tim, but everybody in this room has had one of those either a catastrophic illness, a catastrophic change in your life, or something that is burdening your shoulders, and it's a life changer. Lucia's gone through it. I'm sure Leslie's gone through it. All of you guys in here have done that. That was just, like I said, one of my friends looked at it. He says, you know what, in your world, he says, on a ruler, if I have a ruler, where's my visual aid? Here we go. If you have a ruler, or pretend this is a newscast on TV. If this is a 30-minute newscast on TV, this much of it, all of this is going to be around Ashley or leukemia, or in this case, Thomas. All of this is the rest of what's in your mind over here, just this little small area right here. Everything else is moved. This is all about getting your child back up to full strength. Or in a newscast, a half-hour newscast, 28 minutes of it are going to be about your child. The other 2 minutes of it is everything else in the world.
That's a really great way to put it. Yeah, and I myself hadn't thought about it like that, like you guys have. So if you're just joining us, this is Jim in Chicagoland. You all know him well. Him and Gemma are sharing their stories of getting the news that their child was diagnosed with leukemia. Now, in this episode, we have 2 people in the broadcast with the similar diagnosis. This doesn't have to be the case. I mean, there's a range of childhood diseases, illnesses, and everything out there. This is for anybody that's willing to listen to the stories, and anybody that wants to share. You can always drop us a line, and we can talk about it. Quick update real quick for the folks just joining. I am at my firehouse. Well, this isn't my firehouse. I got called into work tonight. We had a line of duty death here in Frederick County yesterday. So it's kind of an all hands on deck thing. So if you see me I am actively on duty right now. If you see me exit the room and without word, then I have to run on a call. But Gemma and Jim have it under control, and we'll get through with the rest of the stories. That being said, we'll go ahead and bring Gemma up again. What was step one like for you when you got the news? You had mentioned that you wanted to learn as much information as you could. Was there anything
Yeah.
in particular that caught your interest or caught your eye the most?
It wasn't until I think at least 24 hours after I was told that I started to finally accept it. At first, like, I remember going back to the doctor after and apologizing because I told him he didn't know his job. He was wrong. My child did not have cancer. It was absolutely, he was talking crap. But then when I started to see, they told me that he had less than a week to live if we did not get him hooked up to that medication. And normally they said they would they would put him to sleep, test the bone marrow, and find out which one it is and treat that way. But they said because of the mass on his chest, they can't do that because it's too dangerous putting him to sleep under anesthetic. So they started treating him with very high dose steroids, and he became unwell very, very fast. I've got a couple of pictures here to show you. So that one on.
Yeah, the mood swings are what really gets you there.
Time.
He's all or nothing. He's like completely out of it, or he snaps out of it and just gets,
yeah.
There's no middle.
So he became really poorly, and there he's got like oxygen and everything on because he couldn't breathe. I think the mass knew that it was being attacked by the drugs, and it was like, and it just stopped him being able to breathe properly. And then we've got this one here. Whoops. And that was, I think, perhaps day 2 or 3 of being diagnosed. And it's when I saw him, I started to accept it. And that's when I was like, yeah, okay, now I need to know what we're doing here. I need to learn more about this and find out what's going on. It really was like having to learn a whole medical degree overnight. And I was given countless leaflets and booklets and things, and they gave me a file, and the file, it was so thick of information, and I'm just like, and I don't think I slept for maybe, I mean, you don't sleep very well in hospitals anyway, but I don't think I slept very well for a while.
Right.
Because I wanted to learn what was going on. I thought I need to know what I'm dealing with here. And I don't know. I mean, he was taken to the hospital originally because he had a rash. He'd had a bit of a kick-off because he didn't want to go to school. And he'd had a rash that appeared. And it was like, I'm just literally uploading them now so that I can show you.
Sure.
But it was suspected meningitis that we took him in for. Now, here we go. This is the one. I couldn't upload him properly earlier. So he got a rash from about the mid-waist up, and I put the glass over it and thought, because my first thought was meningitis, and when it didn't disappear under the tumbler, I thought it's meningitis. And when I took him in, they thought that was that at first, but then they fairly quickly ruled it out with it being only from the mid-waist up. So they said, we don't know what it is, but we're just going to run some bloods just to check. And it's then they put me in the it was like the cat ward for the clinical admissions, and it's like before they know where you're actually going to go. And
that brings us back to those blood counts that Jim was talking about.
Yeah.
The importance of the blood counts there.
Yep.
But yeah, they told me straight away that it was leukemia. They said they didn't know which. They had to do the bone marrow tests to find out which one. which is why I had to wait nearly a month before I knew, because they had to get on top of that mass on his chest before they could put him to sleep to find out which one. And they said, that's fine, we're going to do that, but the risk of doing that is when we test to find out if he's high or low risk for a relapse, it will come back with a false positive, and it will say low risk because we've already started to treat it. So we will never truly know if he's high or low risk for a relapse. We're just going to have to hope it doesn't happen.
Right.
But
So,
here, certainly here, the treatment is 3.5 years for a boy, 3 years for a girl. Um,
interesting.
and they used, right at the start, I think he was on about 6 or 7 different chemotherapy drugs and a steroid on top.
Yep.
His favorite one was a red one because it made him pee red. And because they were monitoring his output and input, he had to like wee into these wee jug things. And because we were in like total isolation, there was like a double door you had to go through. And then in the bathroom, it literally looked like a fridge that you put it in, and then they could get it from the other side.
Yep.
And he would very matter of fact announce, he says, "There's some red wine in the fridge for you," to the nurses.
So he
So
kept a good
like that.
spirit there.
He did actually. I've got
That's
loads more
great.
photos that are going through to show as well. But yeah, he did. When he started picking up, I think as soon as they started getting on top of that mass, he started picking up. This photo here is maybe just over a week after the treatment started. And he was sat up and he was pretty lively then. But again, it's when they started hitting him with different treatments and different drugs and different chemotherapy, it knocked him differently. His appetite was like, he was eating more than I could eat in a week.
That's
And
the
he
other
was
one too. The
piling the weight
appetites go up
on.
and down also.
So,
His mood and everything. Oh gosh, the mood swings were just,
this picture is how long into it? I'm sorry.
Oh
That's
wow.
about just over a week after he
A
started
week.
treatment. And he picked up really well. After that, let me get some more. This one here. Now, I haven't shown this one very much because he was very ill. But this one here was maybe about 3 weeks into it. Oops, I'm
I got you.
used to this. Sorry.
Yeah, those early
That's
weeks
when
are
the
the worst.
steroids really took hold. And because as well they couldn't put him to sleep to put his central line in, he had terrible veins. You can see how sore his hands are. And
Yeah.
he had, I think at one point he had 5 cannulas in, both hands, both feet, and then halfway up the arm as well. And he was so sore with it.
Yeah.
But now they've gone and put his central line in. It's a lot better for accessing, but occasionally, like today, he didn't want it. He was having none of it. But he did in the end, because I think he's come to terms with the fact that, you know what, I have to have this now. And I think that's how
So,
I knew he was getting better as well, because before he'd just lay there and they would do whatever they wanted and he wouldn't flinch. And
Yeah.
it's when he started fighting and it was like, no, you're not touching me. No, you're not doing that. I knew he was getting better.
right, right. So this brings us, or brings me to, the mental health portion of the show here. What did this do to the two of you? We'll go ahead and bring Jim back to start. You and your wife Maureen, how did you accept this? What was your mental health like for the first couple months, and how did you cope and maybe get into a better mind frame after acceptance?
Yeah, I think it was one of those things where when you get I'm going to show you I'm using a visual graphic here. I mean, I think Gemma can echo this as well. You feel victimized. You're like, why me? Why my son or my son or my daughter, depending on, Gemma's case,
Yeah.
and it's to a degree, it's still like that to this very day for us, I think. When you get a piece of paper that says your child has leukemia, and then all of a sudden your life changed forever within a week or within hours, and then you get this piece of paper handed to you showing you all the procedures that are going to be done
Oh
and all
God.
of the injections and the scans and pretty much all of that. Gemma could
Mm.
probably
I
relate to some of
recognize
these.
all of those things nearly.
Yep. And all of a sudden, like Gemma says, you suddenly become like one of them, like a doctor. You become a
Mm.
vegetarian and all this stuff. And to answer your question, Tim, as far as the mental health part of things, I was a wreck. I think I'm still a wreck to an extent. I still think I am suffering from that post-traumatic end of things.
Sure.
I became more short-tempered because there were things like in this case for my daughter I had no control over. Prior to that, I was the father figure. I had the control. I was the breadwinner. I was the one that had to say, all of a sudden, all of those things were pretty much taken out of my hand. It was frustrating. Um, I had to learn patience very quickly, to expect the unexpected very quickly, to not be spoiled very quickly, to be humbled very quickly. I needed to start learning to listen because if I didn't listen, my daughter's life depended on it. So that was just the tip of the iceberg. And I still think to this day, it's still for my wife and myself, it's still a day to day process for us.
Absolutely.
Do you ever get over the worry of it coming back?
Yes, every day. Yeah, I always
Mm.
look over my shoulder thinking something bad's going to happen, not just with my daughter,
Mhm.
but with every facet of life. I do
Yeah.
that. I cannot lie. I would be lying to you. I come across as,
Yeah.
oh, James, Mr. Positive, Mr. Ultimate, which I am. I love cheering people up. I love listening to people's stories, doing what I can
Mm.
to do whatever I do here in the office or around the house, or around the block, over here on the court, wherever. But it can always come back. But you
Mm.
can't at the same time, you can't live scared either. You have to go out and do the things that you want to do. Obviously, COVID put things
Mm.
back a little bit for all of us, but man, when she went into remission, you know, that was just, party time for us. And then the seizures kind of kept us humble. So we had to be close to home at the
Mm.
same time. But when she was seizure free, we were going downtown. We were at the Chris Kittle Market. We're going to the American Girl store. We're having, we're going up, we're going up to Summerfest. We're doing state fairs. We're going to Arizona. We're going to Florida,
Mm.
Yeah.
and then COVID happened, and here we are. So
Oh, yeah.
So with the seizures, you had mentioned earlier um, how the medical cannabis has helped improve things, so much.
yep,
Can you share with us and the audience, the replay viewers, all about Ashley's Law, please?
absolutely. Well, funny, right when you said that, right on cue, there she is in the comments field. There's Sonar, aka my wife. That's Maureen Ashley in the comments field. That's my wife. So she's going to make sure that she will be my agent. She will correct me when I'm wrong. But so basically, what happened was is back when we went to a homeopath, the late Dr. Tony Bark in Evanston. She saved our daughter's life single-handedly. She brought our daughter onto a keto diet. She pretty much steered her away from all the carbs and the fast foods and my bad cooking to an extent, and pretty much changed our lives and our daughter's life, most importantly. And um, the trick is she was on like three different Western meds back in 2017, and this isn't a slam on any of them at all, because Western meds have saved so many children's lives and so many adults' lives too, for that matter. It
Mm.
just didn't happen to work for our daughter, so we had to slowly bring her down from the Western meds, and then slowly, with the help of Dr. Bark and some others, bring up the medical cannabis and try to measure all that stuff out. So it was a very fine line. And of course, the healthcare provider that we went to at the time, we asked them for help. And of course, they see it as a cash grab. They're seeing money leaving their hands. And they said, we're not going to help you. You're on your own. Bringing her down on their meds and bringing her and replacing them with something that's more healthy and more natural, not pre-processed. And of course, granted the fact that a lot of these meds that my daughter was on were all FDA approved, of course, they just didn't happen to work for our daughter. So that's why
Right.
Dr. Barker took the initiative to help her and set her on this monthly schedule. So we were, Maureen, correct me if I'm, there you go. Like I said, low carb and even even the low carb diet reduce the seizures. That is
Wow.
that fact right there. That is totally the fact right there.
So it was the combination of the diet and the cannabis.
Initially, yes, yeah,
Okay.
and that was so it was a kind of a like I said, it was kind of a hybrid. It was mostly CBD based. Um, it wasn't like gummies. It wasn't like the stereotype of rolling up a joint or doing a bong hit or anything like that.
Right.
It was literally a little bit smaller than this. In the morning, we put a full patch under one of her feet, and
Mm-hmm.
then at night it's
Oh,
like maybe a half of it, about that much. So
Oh,
so
wow.
essentially that regulates her lower body, and then for a while we did like the lotion too on her wrist around 10:30, 10:45. So that slowly, gradually reduced the seizures. There was one little breakthrough that she had when we were about, my wife and I were going to go downtown. We were about to get on the train and it actually seized. We got home, we did the emergency med, and within minutes she was fine and just resting on the couch, and she slept for a couple of hours. And then since then, knock on wood, or knock on metal desk here, everything's been
Mm-hmm.
fine.
mhm.
Ashley needs a blend of CBD and THC, as my wife says, and the need to repair the receptors to take in the CBD to stop those convulsives. Exactly.
Ah,
Yeah.
I
So that's
see.
what it is. And again, she's more medical than I am. Please subscribe to my wife, Maureen. She's not only my best friend, but she's been with me for 24 years and 3 weeks so far. So but just to back up really quick,
Sure.
the biggest obstacle came along when Christmas break or so when winter break was over and school was going to start again. My daughter was on medical cannabis, and as you know, cannabis is a felony. It's a federal offense.
Mm-hmm.
So we called the school nurse and said, "Hey, listen, just an FYI, instead of you having to call up 911 every day to get a paramedic to come to school, and Ashley's like, face down on her desk or having a non-responsive seizure at school every other day, she's now seizure free. We tried her out for two,
Mm.
3 weeks. We should still have like an aide to shadow her just in case, but she's on medical cannabis. Can we have that on? Can we have her on school grounds?" And it was illegal on school grounds.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So it wasn't that the school district was against it. If anything, our local school district was in favor of it. They've never seen Ashley so energetic, so responsive, and being able to be more independent. But the school district would have gotten reprimanded by the state because
Right.
the
Right.
state would have been reprimanded by the federal government.
So
And
thus was born.
well, our daughter was denied an education.
Ah.
She wasn't allowed on school grounds. She was being denied education. So we were like, okay, so do we take this to the next level? So we hired a gentleman by the name of is Mr. Glink, Stephen Glink, out of Northbrook, and in Northbrook, Illinois, here in the States. And Steve was instrumental in showing that every child in the state, in Illinois, as well as other states around the country, have the right to an education. They have a right to an education.
Mm.
Absolutely.
So the school is actually on our side and encouraged us to take this to court because there were other kids, not just with epilepsy, but other kids with side effects like Crohn's disease or PTSD or chronic pain or other childhood ailments that were being denied an education as well. So
Mhm.
our attorney basically, we took the school district, the state to court, and we went to the Dirksen Federal Court building downtown Chicago. And basically, because it's a federal level, the judge here in Chicago really didn't have much power to override a federal law, but he managed to issue a temporary restraining order that would allow us some time to kind of maybe create some kind of a state law on a state level to allow our daughter and other kids perhaps in the state of Illinois to get a school education with medical cannabis in their system. And the judge even said it's not like she's rolling up a joint in math class. She's
Right.
literally, it's an unobstructed patch under her sock that goes into her system. At night, we give her, as my wife just alluded to, a little oil, like a little syringe. It's a little drop of stuff you put on a dark chocolate chip, and we give it to her at night. And it has a little bit more THC, which is the high part, but it makes her sleep better at night. So to conclude, what happened is that she got a temporary restraining order in January of 2018, and our daughter was allowed back into school, but temporarily. There was no law that allowed her to do so. The school's attorney asked our judge in court with us, what are we going to do? What are we going to do to help the family? Judge said homework, make it a law.
Mm-hmm.
Judge Blakey in the Dixon Federal Court building, downtown Chicago, said, do some homework, make it a law, not just for your daughter, but for other kids in Illinois. So we decided to take that. We ran with it. We went through Senate subcommittees, House subcommittees, got the House and the Senate to virtually unanimously approve it. Bipartisan, by the way. Both Democrats and Republicans did a handshake across the aisle on it. And lo and behold, on August 1st of 2018, Ashley's Law was born.
There it is.
And
Yes.
that helps.
Amazing.
That helps not just our daughter, but any child in the state of Illinois who depends on medical cannabis. You know, if you're a caregiver or a parent and you're licensed to obtain it, Ashley's Law comes into play. Your child has an education and has
And
access to school.
that is so amazing that you all did the work. You got it in motion. You took it through all of the Congress and countless hours, I'm sure.
Yeah,
And
it's down in the state capitol. It's at a state level, so it's not federal.
Right.
But the big story is the following year we met with Governor Rauner, back then Governor Rauner, in 2018 for the first law. The amended version of Ashley's Law added the ability of storing it on school grounds. So suppose you're a single mom, like let's say you're Gemma, okay, and she's in Chicago. She moves to Chicago. Yes, and
Maybe
she
one
stays
day.
here. She time to stay here, and she can go over to Advocate. So what happens if Thomas is in school? Something were to happen. Does Gemma have to drop everything from her job and drive an hour back home or back to the school, get the med, and then give it to him? No. Ashley's
Right.
Law 2.0 allows, again, this has to be a licensed person.
Sure.
You have to make sure that it can be stored in school grounds, but you have to be a caregiver or a parent to do it and to administer. So it's stored in this nurse's office, the way that if someone has needs insulin for diabetes, they have that there. Now they have medical cannabis there. So any child with medical cannabis with the license from a parent or caregiver has it on school grounds. And it's one more quick thing. I'm yapping too much here.
No, you're fine.
To the newest law. It's now school buses too. School buses
too.
Big shouts to Senators Christina Castro, State Representative Bob Morgan, retired Representative Lou Lang in Illinois, my good friend Iris Martinez. Now she is running. She was a former senator, and so many other people on both sides of the aisle, both Democrat and Republican in Illinois. We're very grateful.
And it hasn't stopped there, from what I understand. You guys are still moving forward with more.
Maybe.
And keep maybe. Was that a spoiler alert?
Maybe. Well, when you mentioned it, we just had legislation passed not too long ago that allows medical cannabis at summer camps and at park districts, as my wife just wrote down as well. So
wow.
We were thinking about taking it to a federal level a year or two ago, and then COVID happened, and that kind of things. We had some other support from other states that also needed our help, but COVID's taking front and center. But we got all this in just before the craziness, and we're very grateful.
And so, did you find with the birth of Ashley's Law and all the work and research and everything that you guys had to do to get this into motion, was this kind of like your grounding or keeping your head on straight? It gave you that sense of purpose. Okay, we're going to make some stuff happen here.
Yeah.
And we're going to make some good out of the bad, if you will. And did that keep you guys in a sound mind?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that is definitely the case because I think there was a bigger picture here. I don't think we were the only ones whose children were denied an education. Think about those who had kids that had chemo or had other childhood illnesses prior to Ashley's Law. Think about where they are right now in their predicament. They had probably had to get tutors, or they had to have, a caregiver live with them, or they're tied down. They were denied all of that. This is a stepping stone. There's so much more work to be done, especially on the federal level. And I think we need to take it to the next step where, other states, I think other states here in Illinois or in the country are still coming to grasp with it. They still haven't been able to push the legislation through as quickly as we did. And I don't know why there's resistance. I'm wondering if it's big government, if it's big business, if it's big farm, if it's the health insurance companies having a handshake. Our next goal is we're paying out of pocket for this. When I sit there and you see people on HAPS and other platforms, hustling or begging for money and stuff like that. And I can understand if you're a musician, that is your bread and butter, especially when everything shut down in COVID. You've got to appreciate great talent on all these live streaming platforms. I'm begging for money simply because we are paying out of pocket for medical cannabis for our daughter. Insurance companies are denying us any kind of assistance with this. We're paying out of our pocket right now, and we would be much better off. We're living paycheck to paycheck right now.
Right.
We need
And
insurance.
yeah, so that's the next step for you guys getting the insurance companies on board.
I'm ranting here, but think about this. I think there's an underbelly here, a big handshake between, big government, big farm, and health insurance companies. It's a three-way handshake. And
Yeah.
the little guys like us in here, and I'm sure all of you guys, some of you use medical cannabis or even recreational, and you're in that same situation too. And we need to change that. We got to make this a level playing field for everybody around the country.
Yeah, I agree. If it can
Worldwide,
pass,
actually.
and along those same lines, Gemma, the other hashtag I incorporated with this broadcast was Thomas Fight Tall. Can you fill us in a little bit on that? We'll give Jim a break there for.
Yeah. So I guess for me, because seeing Thomas take all those medications and stuff, he became very, very quickly he went downhill very quick. He couldn't write anymore. He's had to learn to use his hands to write. He lost all of his fine motor skill ability. He couldn't walk. He was in a wheelchair, totally bound in a wheelchair for 3 months. And it wasn't until the local rugby team said, if he gets out of that wheelchair, we will let him walk on our field with the players at the start up, and that gave him some incentive to do that. But the amount of chemotherapy drugs he had, it was so bad to him that it destroyed his body effectively. So he's sterile now. He'll never be able to have children of his own. And it's caused many other things. It's caused permanent disfiguration of his feet and toes. His toes, because it caused severe muscle cramps and spasms, his toes have gone they're like that, clawed. And without surgery, nothing that they'll be able to do with that. Just hope it doesn't get any worse. And I thought, I didn't realize, and I don't think you ever do, I think you're kind of ignorant to it until you're in the situation of just how many children do get this. And when I was in that hospital, it was absolutely full of children that were sick with leukemia. Leukemia seems to affect more. It's one of the more popular childhood cancers. But like every cancer in that exists, there isn't really a set dose that's separate from an adult. It is, some of them are like 1 milligram per kilogram in weight, and then some of them are just, you've got cancer, you need to take that, no matter whether you're a fully grown man, say, or Thomas. And it has destroyed his body. So we set up Thomas Fight Tall after we'd done some fundraising initially, and we were pretty good at it, actually. I've always been told I could sell ice to Eskimos. But they said, you know, do you want to actually make a charity fund of your own? And we spoke about it, and I says, do you know what, go on. And that charity was born on the 17th of September 2020, which was his 7th birthday. It was a 7th birthday thing because he wanted to help other children on his birthday. And we have currently raised nearly £5,000 in 1 year. We're not quite up to the £5,000 mark, so I'm giving it one last push. And I'm currently in talks with a place that I am absolutely petrified of heights. Like, why do they make everybody that is tall scared of heights for a start? But anyway, so I'm talking with a place that does abseiling, and I am going to abseil down a huge building to raise money for this charity. Last time, I've only ever tried to do abseiling once when I was at school, and I got up, connected up, and I completely freaked and said, "No, I'm not doing that."
And
But I think
the
this,
kind of the same question that I had for Jim there. Did the setting up the charity in any way help you? Is that Thomas now?
it is. He doesn't sleep. That's what I mean. The medication, he's on them again, and he's just not asleep.
Do you feel like that gave you that drive, that mental soundness?
It did, because honestly, when he was diagnosed, I felt completely helpless. Anything that I want to give him, like even just pain medicine, like the Calpol, paracetamol, things like that, I have to ring and ask permission to give my own child medication. I can't just give him it.
Mm-hmm.
And he's not, ibuprofen's lethal. Then there's paracetamol, which I have to have to ask because they say it can mask a fever, and they don't want to mask a fever just in case he's brewing something. So they give him dihydrocodeine. So he's already on opiates from 5 years old. And you know where I stand with all that because of my own thing. So I try not to give him it. But feeling, because I'm on my own with him and I feel completely helpless, constantly like I'm not doing enough for him, like I can't do enough for him. And that was like a way of not only giving back to those that had helped us, but giving me something to do. And like, I don't know, like I said to myself, if I leave this world, would anybody know that I'd ever existed? Would anybody know that I'd done good? So
Right.
for that, it was like, for
That
that
question should
thinking,
even
yeah,
cross
okay.
your mind, Gemma, because you are doing the work of two, and you and Thomas collectively are more brave than anybody else I know.
Oh, thank you. That means so much.
I second that.
Oh, thank you. It is hard. It really is, especially when I've got my own health battles, and I have many a time put off my own appointments and my own health for
Yeah,
him.
like Jim was explaining with the ruler, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
Now,
I
one
mean,
thing I wanted to ask Jim actually, one thing I've noticed in Thomas since the medication's been going up, I don't know if it's like the start of a seizure or anything, but Thomas has started over the last maybe 2 months, just under. He'll start rapid blinking, and as though he's just zoned out for just a few seconds. He's just like, you can say Thomas, Thomas, and he's just boom, not with it at all. And it usually coincides with when he's had methotrexate. He has methotrexate every Saturday orally, and then every
oh,
12 weeks intrathecal.
methotrexate's the worst. Ugh, not a
And
fan.
it seems to coincide with that when he's at his worst. So he's had it today. So probably over the
Shoot.
next few weeks, he starts the rapid blinking.
Yeah,
Maybe for a minute or two, and then when he's done that, he'll like seem to stare off into
yep,
space,
yep.
and is just completely zoned out.
The spaciness.
Hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. And like, I don't know whether that's something else that's coming with this or what, but I don't know. It's
Could Methotrexate is the worst of all the ones that we did for our daughter, including the spinal injections, which had, in one instance, way too much methotrexate. But once you get past that hurdle, and my wife can confirm this for me, I think that was once we were off that, once the schedules, the visits weren't every week or every month, it was every 2 months, and the methotrexate was like almost out of the picture by then. It was just regular chemo.
Yeah. Oh, we've been told that we'll have methotrexate right to the end. I'm keeping him off camera because he's come in and just did pants, so I'm not gonna go there.
I'm the same way too. I'm not. I'm just full
Yeah.
right now from the waist down.
He's he's got to have methotrexate right to the very end.
Okay.
Unfortunately, he has oral methotrexate every Saturday at 110% dose, and the intrathecal spinal methotrexate every 12 weeks, and he's just had that now today. So
Wow.
I'll notice more issues over the next few weeks.
So we're coming up on the hour here. I have one last question here for Jim, but first let's. I just wrote in the comments there. If you guys want to help Gemma and Jim get the word out, and Maureen, use the hashtags Ashley's Law and Thomas Fight Tall, and you can share this broadcast out. Maybe if you want to make it collaboration of the week. I don't know. I'm just saying. But we're definitely.
My name's on it. It won't happen.
We're definitely trying to.
He's too old.
Trying to get the word out there, and I know Jim and Maureen are still pushing forward with Ashley's Law. Gemma just said she's still making a push with Thomas Fight Tall, so please feel free to share this broadcast out on your socials, get the word out there for them, and help fight the good fight. Jim, my last question before we close it out, and Gemma, you can add in after the fact as well if you'd like. Whoops. What any advice at all for parents that are just finding out this news? What would you say to them?
If your child gets diagnosed not with just leukemia, but with any like life-threatening illness or anything like that, the key thing is you're going to go through those 5 stages of the anger, grief, denial, all of that, etc. You're going to go through that whether you like it or not. But the important thing is that you're not alone. You feel like, because every instance is going to be different. Every illness is going to be different. Like Gemma's leukemia treatments with Thomas are different than what I went through with Ashley to an extent, but there's also a common bond as well. The key thing here, guys, is that if you yourself, and I know many of you in here have, your health is compromised to some extent. So you've gone through this. I'm not going to lecture nobody because you guys in here are more brave than I will ever be. But what I can do is that you're not alone. And Tim can attest to this. Gemma, you can attest to this as well. There are people who will listen, who will learn from you and will support you. You're not alone, guys. And I learned that through not only the network of outstanding people, all the oncologists, nurses, doctors, child life specialists, but you also learn who your real friends are. The real friends, like your real neighbors, will still support you. We had like meals for like a month delivered to our house from neighbors around the neighborhood. My wife and daughter weren't subjected to my dad cooking for like 60 days, which was nice. Unfortunately, it came at the cost of my waistline. But the thing is that you'll know who your friends really are.
Right.
And
And
you have surround yourself with people who listen, who want to learn from you, who want to support you. And you'll learn that while the road will be very difficult, there'll be many ups and downs as Jem is going through, what I'm still going through, and way to Tim and all of you guys are still going through. You are not alone. Jump on Tim, jump on with Gemma, support them, and they will be there for you too.
And Lucia's out there with us as well. We're just trying to bring mental health more up to the front and let everybody kind of into our world a little bit, just to reinforce what you said, that you're not alone.
I got a blurry camera. I need a new camera. God, all blurry. Maybe that's good.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Jim. You guys know to catch Jim Tuesday. Well, that's going to change here. We'll let you do a
I
little plug
know.
here.
I should make my announcement one here. I know
Yeah.
we're a little bit late tonight, but big changes are coming to the fall here on HAPS. I'm still going to be on HAPS. I'm not one of those that's jumping onto some other live streaming networks so they can monitor.
I hope you're not taking Catalyst away
I'm
from me.
staying here in HAPS. I'm a HAPS person for life. And Tuesday starts softball.
Okay.
So ball snatchers are on Tuesdays, so won't be on live Tuesdays anymore. Wednesday, it's Catalyst. It's a chance for you to see a warm fire pit or a candle, depending on the weather. If you're really lucky, or I should say that this is what happened last night. Normally, there's a fire pit under this thing.
Oh,
We had a little 60-mile-per-hour line wind come through during Catalyst last night. I woke up to this morning.
oh no.
Catalyst swing on top of the Catalyst fire pit. We will rebuild. We will rebuild.
We'll get them back out there next week.
Yeah, exactly. So we're doing Catalyst Wednesdays, 11 Eastern, 8 Pacific. It's a chance for you to vent, to let go of your stress, your anxiety, your uncertainties. It's a place to talk, and yawn. We help people better at night too. It's a warm candle last night. People loved it. Thursdays, I'm coming back to Thursday nights, guys. I'm happy to report that the JS Live Talking Variety program will be back. I'll have surprise guests. Chris Rossetti and Jay Forsyth will be doing some stuff with me on the site as well as regulars. I'm excited. We're going to revitalize Thursday nights. And for all of you football people, yes, we are doing football again Thursdays. Yes, the people who brought you Thunder Huddle on Periscope and Thursday Night Roundtable. Oh, it's okay, Jeff. It's okay. We'll talk about. We'll do Premier League another time. But American football, yes, we're going to be doing Haps Huddle, announcing Haps Huddle here on Paris or on
All
Haps
right.
coming up in September. So it'll be our talk show, 1 hour long, done, and then we're going to do an hour of football, strictly fantasy football, summaries, analysis, predictions, all of that. It'll be fun. And then Saturday, of course, is trivia night.
Saturday is trivia night.
Yep, Saturday, almost 3 years old now.
God bless the Catalyst porch, though.
Thank you.
Get you back out there hopefully next week. That is one of my favorite broadcasts on the platform. If you guys don't know, I'm sure you all do, but Fire Pit, good way to decompress in the middle of the week. What better time to get you through those last 2 days? And Jim, thank you so much for being here. Thanks for sharing.
My apologies for my blurry camera. I should have, when I got let go from my job earlier this, I should have taken their camera and given them this one. Joking. So,
It was an absolute pleasure. And on behalf of Jim and I both, thank you for the time. And Miss Maureen, thank you for letting us have him for an hour there.
She made beefs for me, and I met some Italian beef upstairs.
We'll let you go and get some food. And I think, is Thomas there? Does he want to say hello?
He is. You can hear him yawning. Come on, Tom.
Yes.
Can't be bothered. He can't be bothered. He's just sprawled out here. Say hello. I'll just show you these then really quickly because he's not going to pop up. He popped up a minute ago. Where are they?
Oh,
there he is. There he is.
Corner.
My pants on.
Oh, sorry. Right, this one was really quick. That was when he lost his hair to the chemo.
Oh boy.
Yep.
And then this was today. Oh gosh, they're not going away. This was today after his anesthetic. Literally just still asleep.
Yeah. Now he's wide awake.
Yeah. When I got to sleep, and then this one's the other day. So he's doing well. He's certainly doing well.
He sounds tired.
Thomas, you are the man.
Thank you for the information.
But yeah, he's doing well. He's just not sleeping. What we are on at the time, 2:10 nearly. So yeah.
All right.
Oh boy. Well, let's go ahead and get him to bed. Let's get Jim fed. And thanks everybody for being here. I appreciate always. And like I said, please share this out on the socials and get the word out there.
Thank you to everybody in this studio audience, the virtual studio audience. Without you guys, we would be here. And Make sure you guys subscribe to both Gemma and to Tim, please. They're great hosts, and make sure you check out the Mental Health Hour every week here on HAPS.
All right, guys. It was good seeing everybody. And we'll see you again next week. Next week, we'll be back on Wednesday at 6 p.m. right
One thing
before
to add,
Catalyst.
if anybody
All right.
wants to ask any questions or anything, I'm just putting a bio link in now. We made it, and there is a form on there that you can send us stuff, and it's totally anonymous. So there you go. It's all in there.
Yep. Feel free to drop us a line anytime. All right, guys. Thanks again. We'll see you guys.
Thanks
Bye.
again.
Bye.
Bye.